Say from Jaja lift we up, say none of them can break we down. We stand solid as a rock and hold a firm ground. Lewis and Bond, the pagan and them little dirty heart because them now got shot the road where we are walk.
Show our people how the mixed breeds help the white man to tell the lie that ancient Kemetic,
well, look.
Ancient Kemetic civilization was white civilization, and the race wars that took place that have created the confusion that we see today.
Okay, hold on. What that means, hold on. Here's something, this is really important. What black people have to start doing is we got to start to tell the truth about ourselves, and it's not going to always make us feel good.
That's right.
Okay? And so everything about ancient Egypt was not, you know, just beautiful and this, that, and the other. We made a lot of mistakes. And the number one mistake that we made, hold on, I got to say this.
Here it comes,
I got to say this, I'm going to say it. When you walk around New York and you see black men with white women, and you see all these black athletes with white women, it reminds me of this. Have you ever heard the saying, you're gonna mess around and repeat history, or history always repeats itself?
Yep.
You got the saying wrong. The correct way to say it is, those who are ignorant of history will repeat its mistakes. But the other side of that is, those who know history can repeat the successes, and this is what the white man knows. That's why he studies history. If you go to what do you call it? What's the name of the military institute? West Point. When you go to West Point, you have to study military history. You have to. Some of the highest paid people in the world are military historians, because that's how they determine how they're going to do certain things. When they go in here, when they go in there and do A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So you have to know history, and this is what I mean. When you see these black men, you notice I didn't say the black woman with white men. And the reason I'm saying that is because that was not our original problem. Our original problem was when the Hyksos came in and they invaded. You're talking about the 2nd millennium BCE. When they came in, 1730 BCE, when the Hyksos came in. And by the way, there was no group of people called the Hyksos. The Hyksos is just a generic term that the ancient Egyptians used to ascribe to foreign rulers. That means it could apply to Libyans, it could apply to Nubians, it could apply to anybody who they considered a foreign ruler. So people need to stop this nonsense about, oh, the Hyksos. No, you're not the Hyksos, because you got a group of people out here now who are claiming that they were the Hyksos. No. That was a generic term that they could apply to anybody that was a foreign ruler. But when the Hyksos, the people who are the Amorites, whatever you want to call them, when they came in, when they got kicked out by Ahmose, who from the man who I get my name from, when they got kicked out by Ahmose and his brother Ahmose, when they got kicked out, they did what most men do. They said, okay, the woman can stay. Some of the women can stay. They took some of the women as wives. These were Caucasian, pale, white women. They took some of them as wives. This is in the New Kingdom, the 18th dynasty. For the first time in the history of Kemet, after thousands upon thousands of years of civilization, where there was no white folks in there, in the New Kingdom, after the Hyksos invaded, you get them taking wives. You can see it on the walls in the mural. Just look at the papyrus of Annie, him and his white wife. Although there is no proof that those things were not done later on, because you have to know how media works. Today, when you want to change media today, you go on a computer, when you're making a movie or a film or a television thing, you can change whatever you want to change. Back in the ancient world, the way you changed people's perception was you walked up to the wall and you scraped off shit. You scraped off shit, you broke a nose, you did whatever you did, but that was the media. So a lot of those images that you see from ancient Kemet, where they look light-skinned, they were not originally light. So a lot of those people that they're portraying as white, like even the white wives, it was the people who came in later, the Greeks who came in later. They changed a lot of that. But the truth of the matter is that we did take white wives, and because we took white wives, we began to make mixed breeds. And those mixed breeds, if you read Chancellor Williams, The Destruction of Black Civilization, page 295, he's the someone who talks about it best. He had the mulatto problem.
Yes, sir. Go in.
Mulatto problem. If you talk, matter of fact, Dr. John Henry Clark, my younger sister was his secretary, and his wife, he's a family member. He used to always say, God rest his soul, and there's that, Dr. John Henry Clark. He used to always say that he was working on a book called the Role of the Bastard in History, talking about how these mixed breeds would be created amongst us and how they would be used against us. You follow what I'm saying?
That's right.
And it has not changed. As a matter of fact, you remember Bobby McFerrin? The guy who made the song, Don't Worry, Be Happy?
Yes.
Don't worry, be happy. He married a white woman, and they have a mixed breed son. His mixed breed son is a big time comedian now. He was on stage in front of a white audience joking about being a half-breed. And in his joke, in his routine, he spoke about how he acts when he's with his white friends and his white family members, and how he acts when he's with his black friends and his black family members. And everybody was laughing. And I'm like, are y'all listening to what he's saying? This is the mulatto reality. They act one way when they're around black people, and when they're with those other people, they act a different way, but they can do it in a way that you and I can't. It's a different, it's a whole different thing. So you have some black people who know how to play that white game, and when they're around white people, they act one way when they're around white people, they act another way when they're around black people. You got white folks that do that. They act one way when they're around, that's human nature. They act one way when they're around black people, they act one way when they're around white people. But the mulatto thing, so you gotta understand something about mulattoes. And I tell this to people all the time, my personal opinion, the ones you really have to watch out for, and I'm saying it on camera.
Come on with it.
I'm saying it on camera. The ones you have to watch out for are the mulattoes. Racially, you're a double agent.
That's
you can
right.
come amongst me and say anything. Yeah, brother, I'm with you. Yeah, da 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 da. But then you also, in your mind, you know you're not gonna deny half of yourself from me. I had a mulatto girlfriend who grew up in this conscious community, came up under Dr. Leonard Jeffries, Dr. John Henry Clark. I ain't gonna name no names, but she said something that blew my mind because I knew her in the movement all of these years. And she said something to me a few months ago that blew me. She had a German father who she never knew and never met. She's a beautiful girl. But she said something that blew me away. We were sitting in my home and she said, well, I can't deny half of myself and who I am. And I'm like, you know what? I'm with you. The people who have to understand that is us. You understand what I'm saying? We have to understand that. We have to understand, look, when you're dealing with a mulatto person, it doesn't mean that they, Bob Marley, mulatto #1, you know what he said? And I got him on camera saying it. He said, I don't dip on the black side, I don't dip on the white side.
He did.
I dip on the right side. And he had a baby with a white woman named Damian Martin. Straight up and down.
Yep.
He had a baby with a white woman, and there's no crime in that. Because he was a revolutionary.
Not to cut you off while you on him now.
Yeah.
While you on him. And I want you to go back to that. If it wasn't for Bob Marley, you probably wouldn't have so many quote unquote white rosters today.
Oh,
and because of Bob Marley, now on the Billboard charts, the most recent Billboard charts, the top 4 reggae songs are all by white artists.
All by white artists. What is it? Oh, why you gotta be so rude? Why you gotta be so rude? Real talk. It's just real talk. It is what it is. What did brother call them culture bandits? What's his name? You know who I'm talking about.
Jones.
That brother Dale Jones. Rest his soul. And that's your act, Dale Jones. To the ancestor Dale Jones. Straight up, that's what they are, culture bandits. But we are complicit with them. Dr. Dre, Pharrell. Who you think made Justin Timberlake right now, who is the black artist right now? You know that, right? Justin Timberlake is the black artist. They tried to make a Robin Thicke, but he got called out on that Marvin Gaye joint. He got called out big time for that. But look who helped him do it. Pharrell. And nobody's holding for me. Pharrell talking about, I'm happy. Yeah, you happy. You happy because you helping white people steal black music. Of course you're happy. And you're getting paid to the tunes of millions of dollars to do it. Dr. Dre, no different. The only reason Dr. Dre did what he did with Kendrick Lamar was because he felt guilty about what he did with Eminem. And he probably didn't even feel guilty about that. Because I heard a lyric from Dr. Dre from one of his earlier records that I had never heard before, because I was never a Dr. Dre fan. But I was just listening to it, and the first opening line to the record, he said, yeah, we ain't coming with no black power fists and no bees or Africa. He's like, he was bragging on you, we ain't coming with none of that. So I'm like, dude, everything about your life tells me that, dude. He just gave about $6 million to some white college or some white college not too long ago. And Bill Cosby or somebody, I don't remember who it was, held his feet to it and said, why didn't you give it to a black college, to a HBCU?
Shut up.
Because he don't give a fuck about being black. Pardon me. My thing is this is what I tell everybody. I would say this to any black person, I would hope you will hear me. And that is, when money becomes your God, when you worship money, you are the biggest trick in the room. Period. Because all somebody got to do is wave some money in your face and you're doing whatever you need to do. So the first rule of business in the black community, money is not allowed to be worshipped. Period. Period. If you can start there, you can solve a whole lot of your problems, because it'll put a whole lot of other things into perspective. It'll have the males, I can't even say the men, it'll have the males in our community operating differently, because the things that they're doing won't be motivated by money. How you gonna worship something that ain't even got your face on it? How you gonna worship something that has nothing back in it? You understand what I'm saying? So you gotta worship your culture. Put your culture first. That's what I worship first. I worship my culture first. That's my God. My God is my culture and whatever come along with that. But that also means the good of it, the bad of it, and the ugly of it. So I can't lie about it. And part of our culture in ancient Kemet, unfortunately, was taking foreign wives. And when you take foreign wives, you create children that are disenfranchised from the culture. You gotta remember, one of the rules to become pharaoh in ancient Kemet was you had to have a relationship to the bloodline through the female. The queen was much more important than the king was in ancient Kemet. Much more. Much more. There's actually an ancient Egyptian soap opera that's online. I will not tell you the name of it because I use a lot of footage from it in my music videos. Alright? Yeah, but one of these days, Hotel family, one of these days I'm gonna share it with the black community, because when you see it, it's gonna blow your mind. This was an ancient Egyptian soap opera that was in the 80s, produced in Britain, and it's online. And when you see it, it's gonna blow your mind, because they spared no expense on the set. You're gonna actually think you're looking at ancient Egypt, and the level of scholarship that's evident in the script, in the conversation, in the dialogue. I was watching it this morning before I went to sleep. I'm just watching it because I'm like, I cannot believe that whoever put this together really did their homework like this. We don't do that. We don't. They will spend no expense. They got a new one. What's that new Egyptian show they got coming out? Hieroglyphs. Right? It's a new one. You heard about it, right? You seen it, right? It's called Hieroglyphs. Now everybody's mad because they got a white guy as the pharaoh. I'm saying, don't get mad. The first question you gotta ask, well, are they being historically? First thing, all you see is a bunch of mad black people on the page. Oh, the ancient Egyptians weren't white. The ancient pharaohs weren't white. Well, hold up. What period are you talking about? Because if you're talking about the Ptolemaic period and the Greek period, yes, there were white kings ruling on the throne. That's just a fact of fucking history. Pardon me. It's a fact of history. But the truth of the matter now, once you get to that point, once you say, okay, well, as long as it's in the Greek period and they're just talking about the Ptolemaic, they're telling their history. That's their history. They did that. After Alexander came in and Ptolemy set up shop, they did that. He pronounced himself king of Egypt, dressed as a pharaoh, was head of the priesthood, all of that. They did that. But even during the Greek period, don't ever let nobody fool you. They never conquered all of Egypt. They only had the north. They didn't have all of the North Egypt. And in fact, what they call Alexandria, Egypt, was not even considered Egypt. It's what scholars called ad Egyptum, as opposed to in Egypt. It was a foreign intrusion built upon the harbor. And it was the first time in the history of African history that black people had to follow Jim Crow laws on their own land. In other words, when you went into Alexandria as a black person, you were either sweeping the floor, you were picking up the shit, or you were somebody's butler, or you were a priest on behalf of the white king. Hear what I'm saying? You were a black priest on behalf of the white king. In fact, Walter Williams calls them correctly the first documented uncle I don't call them Uncle Tom, Sambos. They were the first documented Sambos in history. They're the first. It was a small part of the Egyptian priesthood. Oh, she is so cute. They were a small part of the Egyptian priesthood that sold us out. They straight up, they sold us out. They went to work for the Greeks. They said, what you want? You want a god? I'll make you a god. He said, yeah, no, Alexander. Oh, no. Alexander came in. I had to give somebody a story. My birthday was June 20th, and I had to spend the whole day. I thought a brother was coming through this to spend some time with me. I didn't realize he just wanted to come through and learn. So I had to stop everything I was doing, working on the music video, and I actually taught him the entire day. But it was one of the best birthdays I've ever had in my life, because while I was teaching him, I was discovering some things I hadn't seen before. And let me tell you something. For me to discover something I've never seen before, it's deep. That's deep, bro. Because what makes these eyes special is that I've seen things that most human beings have never seen when it comes to manuscripts, when it comes to our history, when it comes to seeing things that they kept from us. Like I'll give you an example. One of the things that I find most fascinating. When were we slaves in this country? What century? What was the last century that we were slaves in? 19th century. In the 1800s, 1851, 1845, 1823, 1865, we were slaves in this country. Now when you read all of the work being produced on ancient Egypt at that time, by Budge, by Bruce, and by all these other people, you see in the footnotes, if you read anything by Budge, you see in the footnotes, and it's true, Budge got some things wrong. But that's because he got some things wrong doesn't mean he got everything wrong. He got a lot of things right. And one of the things that he was right about was that all of this stuff that they're claiming in Christianity actually came out of ancient Kemet. It came out of Egypt. Now Budge said two things. He said everything in Christianity came out of Egypt, and the ancient Egyptians were black. They were Sudanic black people. That's what Budge said. They were black Africans. All right? He said they were black Africans, and everything in Christianity came out of ancient Egypt. That's what he said. Now, he documented this. If you look at the footnotes, it says 1845, 1823. That means that they knew who we were while we were picking cotton. They knew, you know what I'm saying? They knew who we were while we were picking cotton. And that's why, hold on. And that's why they outlawed books like Count C.F. Boney, Ruins of Empire. They outlawed that book from coming into this country. They outlawed Eugene M. Kine's Adventures of Mankind. They outlawed that coming into this country. Because, let me tell you something, and now this is where I'm going to get a lot of flack, but I really don't give a fuck, because I'm just an honest person. All white people are not your enemy. Alright? You got as many black enemies as you got white enemies. That's just a fact. You don't believe me? Go to Chicago. Stand on the street corner. Okay, alright then. Alright, do it. You ain't got to tell me. I used to run up in Inglewood. Okay? So what I'm telling you is this. You had a lot of white people during the 19th century who were trying to tell the truth. People like Gerald Massey. Dr. Clark said, read Gerald Massey. He said you have to read the radical white writers who were telling the truth. Gerald Massey, Albert Churchwood. Give me another one. Because there were too many of them. What you call it? Massey's student, Alvin Boyd Kuhn. The list goes on and on and on. You had all of these white people saying, wait a minute, y'all sold us a bill of goods. These black Count C.F. Boney, who went to Egypt with Napoleon. But because he was a count and a baron and had his own money, he didn't have to kiss Napoleon's ass. Because Napoleon hated black people. Napoleon hated black people with a vengeance. With a vengeance, he hated black people. And he had a mixed breed girlfriend who told him to kill Toussaint. She said, how you gonna let a nigga run you out of Haiti? It was a half black, it was a half breed. She told that to Napoleon. And it messed with Napoleon, your manhood. And Napoleon went and did what he did. Right? So, here's the deal. There's a book out right now. It's called Africa, China's Second Continent. You better get that book. Because, hey, hold on now. I'm gonna tell you how deep it gets. Right now, you literally have 2 million Chinese who got tired of competing with other Chinese people in China because they got billions of people and it's overcrowded. They said, They looked over at Africa. They said all the gold is over there, all the diamonds over there, all the cobalt's over there, all the bauxites over there, all of the coltan is over there. Boom. Now they didn't go to North Africa. They went to what they call sub-Saharan Africa. All right, that's what they did. They're in sub-Saharan Africa right now. They're in Mozambique. They're in Namibia. They're in Zimbabwe. You talking about setting up shop, but it gets even deeper. They're cultivating because there's always going to be this question of land ownership and inalienable rights because of what Mugabe did. So what they're doing is they're marrying their children into the population. That's what they're doing. In fact, the sons are not allowed to date Asian women. They can only date African women so that they can create the Blasian, the mix, the Tiger Woods. Now you got to be careful with that because what did Tiger Woods say? I'm not black. What did Pharrell say? I'm not black. This half-breed thing is no joke. This half-breed thing is no joke. It is real. Hey, look, I see beautiful half-breed women every day. I love them. For some reason, they love me. I can grab a half-breed girl from a fucking black. If a black woman will look at me and go, "You look kind of crazy. I ain't messing with you." Half-breed girl will be like, "What's your name?" So I mean, I can't hate on them. I don't hate on anybody that show me love. Black, white, blue. You show me love, I got love for you. But it doesn't make me stupid. It doesn't mean I can't see what's going on. And what's going on. And I say that to say this. Here is the danger of producing, or not the. Think about it in these terms, because I don't want to be sensationalist. Think about it in terms of assets and deficits. Here is the deficit of creating mixed children. And this is nothing bad about, this is not to say nothing bad about mixed people. They're human beings like everybody else. They have hopes, aspirations, dreams, nightmares, this and the other. I'm not talking about their lack of humanity. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about looking at things from our interest as a people. You understand what I'm saying? What happens is this. If me, as an African landowner, let's just say I got acres and acres of land in Uganda. Because Uganda is no joke. You talking about land? Idi Amin was the greatest black man. People talk about Marcus Garvey. Nah, Idi Amin. That was the man. Idi Amin said on camera, he said, you black people, he said this back in the 70s, he said, you black people in America need to become the president of the White House and take that shit over. He said that. And he talked about Israel like shit because he, you know, remember Sharon, Perez Sharon, the prime minister of Israel? Idi Amin was his right hand. And Idi Amin used to tell them, if you ever try to fuck with me, I will destroy everything about you before you even wake up in the morning. He said, I will bomb you off the face of the earth. Idi Amin said that. Idi Amin said that, had his own Air Force thing going on. Idi Amin was the one that they had to neutralize. It wasn't anybody else. It wasn't even, I mean, I love Nkrumah. In my house growing up, Nkrumah was Jesus. In our house growing up, Kwame Nkrumah was Jesus Christ in our house growing up. Yes, sir. Right? But here's what you got to know. Let's just say I got all of this land. Hold on, I'm gonna drop it for you. I'm gonna drop it for you. Here's what you got to know. Let's just say you. I'm gonna use you, all right, and I'm gonna use you, okay? Let's just say you are a black man and you're a black woman, and you own all of this land in Uganda, right?
It ain't got nothing to do with the debate.
What happens if, say, I'm gonna move you out of the picture, young lady. What happens if you get yourself?
I got you.
No, I don't want you to be over there. Let's just say us as African Americans. Because you know what they said about us in Brezhnev's report? The Brzezinski report. You remember the Brzezinski report, the 2000 thing when they said we had to stop African Americans from having any connection to Africans in Africa? That was a part of the whole COINTELPRO thing. That's a documentation. That came out of the White House. They said we have to make sure that African Americans, have no relationships with Africans. That was a big agenda. And so it was important for them to help mold our concept of ourselves. In fact, that's why they bankrolled all those television shows like Good Times, Sanford and Son. All of that was so that we wouldn't look at ourselves as Africans, but as something distinct other than. Okay? Now here's the problem. Right now, if I'm me as a black man, right? If I watch Roots, like I saw it when it first came out in 1977, and I saw it again. So you woke up the next day thinking, oh, yo, I'm African. That's where I came from. Because prior to that, Yeah, you remember that? You remember the day after Roots came out, it was weird the next day. No matter where you went, everything was weird. For white people and for black people, everybody in between, everybody was looking at each other like, because you had a different frame of mind. Now check this out. That man from that point on, and hold on, I just got the perfect one. Because see, the only reason I'm procrastinating is that when I give it to you, it's gotta hit home. I can't mess around and give it to you before it's right where it needs to be. Now check this out. I lost it as soon as I got it. I said, that's okay, I'm just gonna give it to you. Oh, I got it. What made the first free country in Africa in modern times? What was the first free country? No, what was the first free?
Nigeria.
No.
Liberia.
No. The first country to come out from under colonialism. Who?
Ethiopia.
People, come on! Martin Luther King went to the inauguration of this country. No! Ghana, Kwame Nkrumah.
Yeah.
Kwame Nkrumah, that was the first one. They were the first one to come out from under the yoke of colonialism. That was the first one to step into the sunshine and say, yo, we black, we on our own, and we got this. That was Ghana, and that was Kwame Nkrumah. Right? Right? Now, hold on. Who influenced Kwame Nkrumah? Who influenced Kwame Nkrumah? Come on, read Black History 101 now. Who influenced Kwame Nkrumah to go back to Africa and make Ghana a free country? Who was it?
The white man.
Hey, yo, I'm about to take my belt off and start doing like Jesus did in the temple. Okay. Yo, no, Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey. Kwame Nkrumah. Stop, yo. Kwame Nkrumah used to walk up and down 125th Street pushing a cart, selling used books. He used to walk up and he used to hang in Marcus Garvey Park. This man was influenced by the writings of Marcus Garvey. He said himself, when he was going to the university in Pennsylvania, he read the philosophies and opinion of Marcus Garvey. And he said that's what gave him the idea to go back to Africa and we could rule ourselves. But wait a minute. But then you gotta stop. Who influenced Marcus Garvey, a Jamaican? Who? Somebody, anybody. Who influenced Marcus Garvey? Who was the one that made Marcus Garvey say, yo, the black man gotta come up and do his thing? Who was it? It's one man. No. This is what freaks me out. This is what makes this the part that I don't get, how my people don't know these things. No, you gotta know that this is inexcusable. It's one man, Booker motherfucking T. Washington, and that's that. Booker T. Washington wrote a book called Up From Slavery. Marcus Garvey read that book. So I'm trying to show you something. What I'm showing you is that you got a black man in North America named Booker T. Washington, who influenced a black man in Jamaica named Marcus Garvey, who influenced an African in America named Kwame Nkrumah, who went back to Africa because of what these two guys had done before him, and he freed Africa and got the British out of there. So what did that tell you? What that tells you is is an old African saying. If you take a fish and you throw it in the ocean, no matter how long it's in that ocean, I'm sorry, if you take a piece of wood from a tree, a branch, if you throw a piece of wood from a tree and you throw it in the ocean, no matter how long that branch is in the ocean, it will never become a fish. Okay? It will never become a fish. So if you take an African and you put him in Jamaica, and if you take an African and you put an African in America, no matter what, they're always going to be Africans. It don't matter how long they're in America, it don't matter how long they're in Jamaica, it's the same thing with that branch. If you take that branch and you throw it in the ocean, it will never be a fish, no matter how long it's in that ocean. That's an old African proverb. So it's the same thing. It's the same thing. If you take an African out of Africa and you put him in Jamaica, you put him in Puerto Rico, you put him in Cuba, it don't matter. It's still an African. What's the proof? The proof is that it was a black man in America who influenced a black man in Jamaica, who influenced a black man, African in America to go back to Africa and free it. That's what started the whole independence revolution. Because after Ghana was who? It was the Congo with Patrice Lumumba. After them it was this one, then it was this one, then it was that one. So it was a domino effect. All because of one man, Booker T. Washington, who was a half-breed, up from slavery. Up from slavery. Now hold on. Now here's what's important. I told you that to tell you this. and this goes back to creating biracial children. They recognize one thing. As long as you are what I use the term pure blood. As long as you are pure blood. Like in my family, all my sisters are like yellow. They're like my brother's complexion and this complexion. Everybody, I'm the only one dark. So they used to tease me when I was little and tell me I was a doctor and I used to cry. But growing up, I was the one they were always proud of. They would shove me out front to say, look, we African. And they would shove me out front because I was the dark one. Right? So I was like, all right, cool. But so I use the term pure blood. I always look at my brothers and sisters, I'm so glad I ain't like them. I'm a pure blood. I'll tell you in a minute. I'm pure blood. But here's the thing. Check it out. Here's the thing. What happens, and this goes back to that play, The Melting Pot, and this is the politics behind it. I'm going to give it to you right now. What happens when you take, I'm so glad I don't have a recording session today because I would not be able to get one note out. What happens when you take a black person who has inalienable rights to the land where he's from, and he makes a baby with a white woman from Russia or from Germany, right? That child, who 9 times out of 10 is not going to grow up in Africa, it's going to grow up in Germany and France or Switzerland or someplace like that. That child no longer has any relationship to the land. You feed it up. I don't see myself as an African. My mother's German. I'm just saying, hypothetically. If my mother's German and my father's African and I'm going to school in Germany, why would I come to Africa and do A, B, C, D, E, F, G? It doesn't mean that there haven't been instances where you have biracial people who strongly identify with the black side. I'll give you a perfect example. Rawlings. Remember Rawlings in Ghana, who was the president of Ghana? Most people thought he was just a light-skinned black. No, he was part German. But he didn't know anything about the German side. He grew up as a Ghanaian. He pulled the coup as the head of the government and he took over Ghana and made Ghana what it is.
But understand, that's a very small percentage of folks.
That's a very small percentage. So now what you have today is, you got what I call you got the half-breeds who pass as black. I'll give you a perfect example. I call it conveniently black. Perfect example. Mariah Carey. Mariah Carey's not black. Mariah Carey mommy don't look like my mama. But she sings black music and markets and promotes herself as black. Because conveniently, getting money. And then for the white masses at large, the package that she's being presented it's appealing. It's appealing. You understand what I'm saying? And there's another one. I can't recall who the other one is, but there's a whole bunch of them out there. I had to illustrate this for somebody the other day. And it was in fact, it was. Thank you, Halle Berry. Not black, but markets and promotes herself as black conveniently. In other words, you're black when it's convenient to be black. But when it's convenient to be other than black, so this whole racial thing, I'm gonna bring it back to what you was talking about earlier, which was what made us fall in Egypt. And I don't think personally, there's any reason that I should have to stand on the street corner in Harlem and tell you something that Chancellor Williams told you years ago in the destruction of black civilization. I got one beef with my people. And Dr. Clark said this over and over again. You do not read nearly enough. No, check it out. You do not read nearly enough. And that's a fact. Me personally, I'll tell you right now, anybody in my family can tell you, I will take, especially in the wintertime, when it's cold outside, I will take an entire month out and literally not get out of my bed and just read. I will go through a whole text. From front, I taught my son growing up. So do not ever tell me you read a book if you did not read the appendix, the bibliography, the notes, the copyright date, table of contents, every single thing from the front to the back. When you did that, then you read the book. And my son read my whole library by the time he was 16. And that's saying a lot. Bro, that's saying a lot. For my son to have read my whole library by the time he was 16, that's deep. Because my library is no joke. And I go through text. I have read the entire, hold on, I'll give you an example. Everybody talks about, oh yeah, the ancient Egyptians were black, blah, 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 blah. Okay, well, the ancient Egyptians were your ancestors, yes. What have you read that they wrote? Do you even give a fuck about what they said? Do you even care? If you don't care, don't come to me talking about, oh yeah, my ancestors were the ancient Egyptians, we built the pyramids. Because you don't care about anything they had to say. If you cared about what they had to say, then that means you read the pyramid text, you read the coffin text, you read the Book of the Dead, you read multiple translations. In fact, I like what one thing I do agree with Ali Muhammad on is but this is what makes again Ali dangerous. Ali Muhammad said, all you read are translations. You don't read the original language. You have to learn the original language. You have to. In fact, Mfudishi and Nejadak Seba, Mfudishi, who used to teach right upstairs, right around the corner, and he's still giving classes. You have to learn how to read and write the Medunecha, the hieroglyphics. That's your language.
Yes,
Show these shirts.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Show these shirts, my man. Hey, bro, turn around. Let me see that shirt you're wearing. Cause I love it. He's gonna make me one next week. Let him see that. See that? That's my brother right here. Tell me your name.
Aya.
Aya. That's brother Aya. One of the most beautiful brothers I've ever known through my life. And he's gonna make me one of those. I want that watch.